famous W. Hi everybody. I see that there are a few people already in the room, so thanks a lot for joining us. Maybe a few words about the agenda and how this discussion will be structured. So to start with, I will share a few trends and KPI about, let's say, embedded insurance and where it's coming from, very short as an introduction. And then we are very lucky to have Jordi from WeCover and Franck from Wakam, who will share insights and best practices, let's say, around embedded insurance, detailing use cases that they have already developed, which are live. So that's I believe, and we believe, a great opportunity to learn about this trend and why you should consider embedding insurance in your own platform. So maybe to start with a few trends, I just wanted to show you a few slides. The idea is rather to explain where this trend is coming from. So the first slide, thanks a lot for sharing it. We'll see it, I believe, in a few seconds from. So here, it's the first slide, which is around KPI. And actually, we've been saying that distribution is very hot in terms of, let's say, insurtech investment. And actually, since inception, distribution has always been the most active part of the value chain. So here it's a very, let's say, simplified value chain. Nevertheless, we can put all the insurtech startup in Europe in these 4 or 5 sections. And at the end of the day, distribution has always been over 50% of the deals announced in insurtech. And it's true, again, since 2014. So that's a trend here. You can see 2019, 2020, 2021, where in distribution was over 50% of the deal announced. So distribution is very hot, has always been very hot. Nevertheless, and that's what is interesting on the next slide, is that the more the ecosystem is maturing, the more startups are, let's say, addressing distribution in a different way. It all started with direct-to-consumer, what we call B2C insurtech player, selling insurance product directly on their website or on their mobile app, whatever the kind of product, by the way. Then you had a second wave of innovation where insurtech were basically tools for agents, brokers, so rather augmenting insurance players. And more recently, we see a surge in embedded insurance, which is, by the way, enabling any player offering insurance product in their customer journey. So that's a trend that we see right now. And maybe the last slide, just to explain that and show that it's maturing again, and not only in terms of trend, but it starts addressing every kind of business line. So that's very important, and we will have this discussion together because we hear a lot that embedded insurance is around a pocket product. The reality is a bit different, and that's an example here. You can see one company on personal line, one company on commercial line. So it happens in any business lines. And actually, if we have a look at the European market, there are more than 30 players working in that space right now, and there were more than 200 million euros invested in that space. Again, it's very, it's not a huge amount of money seen this way, but the space is very young. So, and most of the startups are still in the early days, but that's growing quite well and quite fast right now. So now let's go through the discussion to better learn about how to make it happen at scale. So we are very lucky to have Jordi and Franck. Maybe a few words on your background and your company to better understand where you're speaking from. Maybe Jordi?
Oh, thank you. So happy to have this discussion. So I'm Franck Pivert. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Wakam. So Wakam is a B2B2C digital insurer working in Europe. And our, let's say, focus is really to provide bespoke insurance products to our distribution partners usually in a white label way and in a digital way. Today we are working with more than 130 partners, so across Europe. Partners being for us brokers, MGAs, insurtechs, fintechs, marketplace, but they all have, let's say, in common the fact that they are willing to shape the insurance of tomorrow. And just to give you an example, we are currently working with new players like, for instance, Zigo, Insure, Boltec, Cover, and with them we are serving clients like Deliveroo, Uber, back markets, Dot, many type of players. And just also to give you rough figures about WACOM, we are currently, let's say, in 2021, close to 500 million euros of turnover. And again, working with more than 130 partners. And we are covering the full European countries, close to 32. So happy to have this discussion.
Thanks, Florian. Thanks, Frank. So this is Jordi Pages. Nice to be here with you both. And well, I'm the co-founder of WeCover with my partner Rafa. We built up WeCover in late 2019. WeCover is an insurtech which is enabling B2B2C distribution. We are focusing on distribution. In that particular case, we are complementary with Wakam. As we provide no product capacity, we are providing the capabilities to enhance the distribution in B2B2C. So we are an enabler between insurance companies and platforms, digital companies that they want to bundle an insurance offer as part of their core proposition. So I really, we fully agree with what you discussed now in terms of the hot space of embedded insurance. It's still a growing market. We really understand that this is a greenfield market, that it's one of the golden opportunities for the insurance market, as it represents the massive distribution. No? If we are capable to allow any company that they see an opportunity in building an insurance offer as part of their services, this may be really a huge amount of services and products for the end customers.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, the background, and we will deep dive on the topic. I see that there are a lot of people in the room, so feel free to raise questions in the chat, because we can read and we will try to answer not all the questions, but we will pick and choose a few of them. Maybe to start with, because we are discussing about embedded insurance, but first question, what's your definition of embedded insurance? Because I believe that there might be multiple definitions. So maybe Franck to start with.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because we had this question many times. What is embedded insurance? Sometimes we have the feedbacks or the question that embedded insurance is just a new buzzword for affinity insurance. So I don't think so. I think there is a big difference in the way you approach embedded insurance versus affinity business. For me, I think when usually people think about affinity business, they think it's something painful. It's something that's not really, let's say, at the right moments, where you have multiple questions, where potentially in the end you end up with a product you are not even sure to be insured for what may happen. So to talk about embedded insurance, I really like the definition provided by the Horowitz Fund, who said, in fact, embedded insurance for them is a seamless customer journey with potentially an opt-out, let's say, option. Versus affinity business is usually more, let's say, painful process of opt-in. So I think it's really the big difference. So I would say for me, embedded insurance is more an evolution of affinity business. My personal definition of embedded insurance is where, in fact, you just imagine you are in a world where you don't need to buy insurance anymore, because insurance is already embedded in the product you own, in the product you use, in a very seamless way, and you don't have to worry anymore about insurance. And I will give you this basic example. I have a small scar on my hand, remembering me the day when I just fell in the street using a free-floating bike. And when I fell and hurt myself pretty badly, I thought, anyway, I'm insured, because through my home insurance or through my personal accident I had 4 years. And guess what? I was insured by none of them, and not even by the free-floating ticket I bought. So for me, it's exactly the opposite of embedded insurance. I should not even ask myself, I am insured or not. So for me, embedded insurance, when in the end you don't think about insurance at all anymore.
Makes sense. Transparent insurance.
Yes, exactly.
Understandable.
Yeah, no, fully agree, and I think it's really difficult to add something, but I like to use the sentence. No? This is about finding the right offer at the right moment at the right place. No, so it's what Franck described in terms of that the insurance comes to you instead of that you are going to the insurance offer. No, and you find insurance offer whenever you need them. And in particular, now the product development is also requested to find and to fit with what your needs related to that particular moment, of the purchase what you're doing in one particular product or the services that you are taking. So in the end, it's bringing insurance to you. It's enabling the insurance in a massive distribution related to any of the transactions that we are currently doing in our day-to-day business. So it means that we will be much sure that we are fully protected, not that we are absolutely covered, because we will have the option in anything we do to understand if we are currently having the right solution in place.
And by the way, a perfect link, because I believe that we hear a lot, as I mentioned during the introduction, that actually embedded insurance is either affinitaire business or it's pocket product. But listening to you, it seems that it's by design broader. Any views on which product would make sense? Is there room for any kind of product in embedded insurance? Or
when we are currently asked about which are the products that you are working with, and we say we are product agnostic. So we are focusing on distribution. We are enabling this B2B2C distribution for platforms and digital companies, and we may work with any particular product. Of course, the products that you may understand that are much more pocket products in terms of making a purchase much easier because it's a minimum spend that you are doing at that time. You may have higher attachment rates, but compared to the size of the business that you are offering, if you compare to which is the other distribution channels that are accessing to the customers and how many they can target, so the level of attachment that you can get even with much more complex products is really relevant. So in the end, you can sell life, accident, health insurance, motor business as well. We are currently doing that. And if you are targeting correctly, which is the right moment, the right product and the need that you need to cover at that time, you may have relevant attachment rates even with complex products.
And maybe to have a few insights, you mentioned that you were working with more than 100, let's say, partners. Is there any patterns in terms of business line that you are covering, or are you, again, as we already mentioned?
Like Jordi said, I think, let's say, probably all the line of business are touched. Maybe if we think about stepping back about our business. So if we think about embedded insurance, and again, coming from more affinity, usually we think about one of the most mature is probably, let's say, travel. Travel is very mature. You are used to buy a flying ticket with sometimes you can buy travel insurance. But even in that field, starting with this one, we see things evolving, because when we think about embedded insurance, it's not just the product, it's all the customer journey from A to Z, so from the subscription point to the claims process. And for me, an embedded insurance product is very simple to buy, very simple to understand, and very simple to claim. And if I take the example of travel or flight delays, as an example, we develop a product which is flight delay in a parametric way, which means from a customer perspective, they know what they buy and they don't care or they don't have to worry if the flight is delayed to do anything. Everything will be automatic. So this is with what we see. We see also, obviously, from credit card or from banks, purchase protection, for instance, in card, which are now designed for the targeted audience, not just simple off-the-shelf product pushed to everybody. So it's really something that is evolving. But there are also other elements. Now we have also in the mobility space, I was mentioning free-floating, for instance. Just, I think it's interesting to ask yourself, if you take a free-floating bike, free-floating e-scooter, whatever in the street, are you covered or not? I think it's a big question, because probably you don't know, but this is something that we are doing a lot in many countries. There is also other business like, I would say, gig economy. Obviously, being a Deliveroo, let's say, a driver, you have to be covered. There is no other option. This is the type of thing which are embedded. When you use Uber, for instance, obviously the driver is protected, but also the passengers needs to be protected. Are they covered? They are. But you should sometimes you ask yourselves. And even in let's say in traditional or more complex product, let's take an example about motor. I think the way we are moving today, we are buying a car and then we have to buy an insurance. I think tomorrow you'll buy a car already insured. Kind of Tesla is moving in that direction. In home insurance, I will take just maybe one basic example. In home insurance, for instance, which is more related about your life, we have developed with our partner Goods ID, let's say an insurance which is protecting your rings in a fully embedded way. You buy your ring in a La Maison Courbet, a famous jewelry shop in France, and with that you get a digital certificate in the blockchain. And with the digital certificate, you have a theft, let's say, cover. What does it mean? It means that the customer is just buying the ring, get the digital certificate for authenticity. You know that there is, let's say, a theft insurance inside. Very simple. And if the ring is stolen, you still have to go to the police because it's not something you do every week. But just by doing that, you upload the report in the digital certificate, and automatically we ask the La Maison Courbet to exactly redo the same ring. This is for me fully embedded. Very simple product. I'm not saying that it's doing millions today, but it just shows pave the way for new type of insurance for tomorrow. So you can see that it's coming, let's say, everywhere, and we see a big trend here.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because at first it shows that actually any kind of product could be covered. That's the first point. And if we come back to the title, let's say, of the discussion today, which is best practices for platform, that's an example of a player doing jewels, which has nothing to do with insurance, but could benefit from insurance. So how would you think, let's say, platform, and why do you believe platform should embrace this kind of thing? So in that case, I believe there is things around the user experience, obviously a bit of additional revenue. So how do you kind of pitch platforms to convince them that they should embrace insurance? And I believe that we have a few of them in the audience. So yes, why it makes sense to embed insurance even if you have nothing to do.
I would say that there is no single kind of potential customer in terms of partners, platforms, digital companies, and there's no single need. So what we used to find out is you have companies, because this is something very new, very a young distribution space. We see partners that are completely greenfield in insurance, and probably they never realized that they had the opportunity, So the things that are really key for them is this needs to be really simple, fully integrated in my customer journey. If I have a drop in my own core business, this is not going to happen, because in the end, what really matters for them is their own core business, and this is an additional revenue, an additional value for their customers. They value, of course, that, but it needs to be fully embedded. It needs to be aligned with the wow experience that they want to offer with their customers. So this is absolutely key. So I would say the conditions that they are setting is, I don't know about insurance, so please do this for me, because I don't want to get into this complex world that you speak this complex language, and I don't really understand some of the words that you are currently using. I don't want to have any kind of backlog in IT, so I don't want to go through an IT development, because I don't have resources, and I don't want to spend those resources in something that is complementary to my business, and I want to have it fully aligned with the customer journey. So I would say when we see these partners that are completely greenfield in insurance, these are the key elements that I'm stating. When you see people that are already mature selling insurance or bundling the insurance offer as part of their proposition, what it really matters to them is to optimize the operation, because in the end, they have significant volumes. It's a massive distribution process. If something doesn't really work well and is fully operationally optimized, you have an opportunity there too.
And how do you see it again?
I think you already said that. I think for me, there are most of the time three major rationale why people want to do embedded insurance. First one, to make it simple, and it's usually the most important one, to do additional revenues. And I think this is where sometimes we are struggling, because it's not just about revenues. We have to do it right. But this is usually the most important trigger. Second one is people are a little bit more mature. So beyond revenues is to get to increase their loyalty or to increase acquisition of customers by providing real value add. If you're just looking at for money, but there is no real value add in the end, you don't achieve this target. And the last, let's say, trigger is that we have seen many partners who think truly that there is a mega trend coming. So they want to start doing it now to understand what it means and to be ready for the big wave. I think you can see this type of partners who are looking only for money, which is already good, because in the end they need to make business. But the one who was thinking a little bit ahead of the game and say, okay, now things are changing, we need to learn. And it's where we see the big movement.
Yeah, we need to consider too that in many of the segments where the platforms are not currently working or digital companies, they have very low margins in the end. So, and we see that trend, that the companies, manufacturers, and all kind of companies are seeing the insurance as a potential source of revenue because of the margins that they can get, and because of the value added they can offer to the customer. So yeah, the economics are key, but also loyalty and value added for customers is fundamental.
Yeah, and by the way, that's related to a question. Thanks a lot for raising the question. With the question is basically around the development of second-hand marketplace, platform, etc. How would you, let's say, embed insurance, or how do you think embedded insurance could be helpful in that market? Is that a good example for you? And I think that you are working with one of them. So again, one example. But you mentioned loyalty and things like that. The relationship with the customer, is that a good example, or is that a good use case, or how do you see this use case around second-hand marketplace?
Well, I think this one is a good example. So let's take, for instance, let's say mobile phones or electronic device. If it's a second-hand, what you need to build if you want to be successful as a marketplace is trust with the end consumer. So having something where you have an insurance, at least providing let's say extended warranties or some protection, is a way to ensure to build the trust, let's say, on the marketplace. So I think it's exactly a perfect thing, but I think we should not, let's say, stop here. I was mentioning, for instance, this kind of digital certificate. If you also bring other stuff like this on top of that, then we have a second end with a digital certificate and insurance. Then obviously in that case, it makes a lot of sense to have something that is relevant, not only for the marketplace, but also for the end consumer.
Yeah, and by the way, jumping on the, let's say, insurance/product user experience technology things, it seems that there is a need, let's say, to have the two legs, a good insurance product and a good tech layer as well. What are, do you think, the key success factors, let's say, for a platform to embrace insurance? Maybe Jordi rather on the tech side, Franck after that on the insurance side?
Yeah, and I would say are fully complementary, and we were discussing with Franck about that. In this case, for instance, that you mentioned about second-hand platforms is key, because you realize how important is having the right product, and in the end, it's never enough the shelf product, because this is not the kind of product that you can find in a generalist company. So it's not easy to find it, and this is the kind of product development that WACOM is doing and can provide, because specific solutions for their market. And in the end, what we provide, and I think is also absolutely crucial, is the capacity to be fully integrated in the customer journey, capabilities that they can use to manage this business, which is a new business. So in the end, they want also to understand which are the analytics, which is the penetration rate that they can get, which are the premiums, commissions, and so on. How can they manage different channels they are using? So in the end, our proposition is fully omni-channel. So same solution, same product, same customer journey would apply for an e-commerce platform with just one click, but we can purchase the insurance with an add-on, in an opt-out proposition. For call center agent, who is calling those customers just in the right moment they are providing the service, and also in a physical store. So in the end, you need to provide capabilities around with the technology, with a layer that is really fully embedding with the insurance cover, which is also important.
Yeah, on the product side, you said that. I think it's there is no one answer, no one size fits all. So if you're targeting specific customer, you need to have the right product designed for your targeted audience. And that's where, as an insurance, as a product factory like WACOM, we are already trying to co-create or let's say the right product fit for the right customers. So it's really something that you need to do. But it's also, I would say, a double challenge in that case, because usually when you start to do that, you don't have historical data. You don't have 10 years of historical data telling you, for instance, how to insure an e-scooter. No clue. So there is some, not beyond the product, there is, let's say, First challenge is for the insurer is the culture, so to willingness to take some risk and to learn. So you need to be quick. That's why also technology is important, because you can implement quickly, but you can react quickly. If you are in a very traditional way where everything is, let's say, coded, hard-coded in the system, if you want to change, it's a nightmare. But working with technology provider on our side with APIs, it helps us to change very quickly. So this is the first challenge. But the second challenge is also from the distribution side or the platform side, because they're entering now a regulated environment. So they have to be, let's say, licensed to provide insurance. And this is where sometimes they don't understand, because they have to be very compliant. And if you go to the UK, for instance, compliance is very, very high. You have to prove that your customer journey is totally fair, let's say, and compliant with regulation. And this is where sometimes they just discover, let's say, the dark side of insurance, and they have to learn from it.
And by the way, can you say a few words about your process? Because what you mentioned is key. I mean, for a platform, let's say, entering what you call the dark space of insurance, and a lot as an investor, we hear and see a lot among startups, people discussing with insurance companies and taking, let's say, ages. So you both refer to how fast it is as a requirement to deliver. I know that Wakam has a very specific, let's say, process to make things happen. Can you say a bit more on the relationship, partnership that you have with the
So in fact, to make it simple, the way we operate is our value add is really to launch new products very quickly. So we're talking about weeks. Usually between the fact when we start to work on something to design the product and pricing, it's around 6-8 weeks maximum, because we want to be quick and to co-construct with the partner. So we have a very, let's say, I would not say simple, but stringent process where we discover the product together with the partner, then we qualify what we call the product, so more designing the product and pricing, and then we move to implementation. It really looks like kind of a VC fund process, where in fact the way we operate obviously is as an insurer, so we have to be very, let's say, clear about profitability and things like this. But the way we think is more as a VC fund. So meaning we think that this is the right partner, with probably the right ID on the right market. Let's test, let's try to make it, let's say, to make it live so that we can learn. And with some partners, obviously, when even themselves are not sure about the appetite for their product, we offer an even quicker way where we say, let's test the market together. We just do a rough pricing. Obviously, we'll still be compliant on the other side. We test it, and we see in the next 3-6 months if it flies or not. If it flies, we scale up. If it doesn't, then we learn and we start again.
Okay, so very effective and very transparent. In terms of milestone, which I believe is key for the young startup trying to embrace, or young startup or not, a big platform could be, but at least they have a very clear path towards being live. Maybe Jordi, on your side, working with a few platforms, is there any specific, let's say, challenge in making things live? Because when you sign a partnership, then embracing technology, you refer to API. I believe that most of the platform have, let's say, a state-of-the-art IT system. So is that easy to make it live? Is there any best practices that you can share with the audience?
It is quite easy. In fact, we can implement in just 1 week or 2 weeks. But what really matters is that the partner needs to understand which is the process that we will follow and need to comply with what we are going to do. And in the end, there's a clear scheme about what needs to be done. We are offering a plug-and-play proposition, so in the end, majority of the load is in our side, but we need to validate with them the customer journey, the integration in the front end, so which is using a widget, using the API. So how do we want to interact particularly with the customer in any of the different flows that he will use, the onboarding, quote and buy process, but also for claims management, also for the first notification of loss, and the inquiries regarding the policy. So we may provide different modules which are very flexible, and in particular, in every implementation, we are just asking, do you want to implement the payment gateway? We will use your shopping chart. Check. Do you want to use the digital signature? Do you want to use this or one? So we have different modules that we can just select to support that the distribution process is fully done and is fully embedded. So it is really working in an easy way. I would say probably The hardest thing is when they realize that I need to cover with a legal scheme. No, how can we go through together? No problem on that. If it's needed, we can operate as well as a broker. So we are also offering the legal scheme to comply in Europe with the IDD.
Yeah, so very easy to make it live. By the way, in terms of product, you mentioned a lot the discussion, and sometimes you need to build from scratch the product. Are the idea of a new product coming from you and your team, or is that a request from the market? So where are these new product coming from?
As I say, regarding WACOM, like I told you, we're working with more than 130 partners across Europe. Last year, we implemented more than 150 partnerships, so more than 2 per week. So in fact, to make it simple, we have a unique source of innovation coming from all over the place. And by working with all the players who are willing to shape insurance, we're working with them, we understand, I would say, trends or mega trends very upfront, not by having marketing study, but because people are asking for something. So I would say usually innovation is coming maybe 80% from our partners. What we do as WACOM is to act as a catalyst, to bring our expertise, to understand, okay, this is happening in this way, in this market, we should do it this way, and speed, and our capacity, obviously. So we play this role as a catalyst. And some of innovation are coming from us, maybe 20%. As an example, we have a self-service products where we have flight delays, parametric, or bike insurance, and now we are adding new features. But I think it's really, let's say, working as a partnership. I think innovation is coming from the field, and the field is with our distribution partners.
Yeah, and by the way, I make the link with the question that we have in the audience. Thanks again. So there is a question about the maturity. So maybe your two perspectives, because you might have complementary views on the market. How do you think the market is mature? Maybe on the distribution side, so the platform. Do you see is them ready to embrace, or is there any country maybe where you think things are more mature, or is that just the very beginning and there is a lot of education, if I may say that, to like we are doing right now, explaining why they should embrace insurance?
Well, maybe to answer on this, there is no one answer. I think the mature, there is no everybody mature or not, but there are differences by country. I would say obviously UK is very advanced, because they were by nature working in the digital way, let's say from years ago. France is not that bad, but I see other countries are still, let's say, at the beginning of the transformation, at the beginning of digitalization. But anyway, all countries are moving. Even UK, which is advanced, they are still, let's say, in a big transformation. So everybody is transforming. What I see more is let's say, the thing that probably is the tricky part is more regulation. Regulation is most of the time trying to cope with transformation. If I take an example, and it's more a counter example, I said UK is the most advanced, but regarding mobility, probably they are the I would say not the best player. Take an example, London today, or let's say a few months ago, you were not able to use any e-scooter, it was forbidden. Now in London, they open up to free floating only, so you can still buy your own e-scooter, but you can't use it, it's forbidden. But now they are thinking about opening up the market, because you can see in London, even if it's forbidden, many guys are using their own e-scooters. So, but regulation is trying to cope with that, versus in France or in Paris, everything is fully regulated already. In Spain, if I'm understanding is right, 2 countries or 2 cities are requesting insurance, and it will be open up to all the insurance market in Spain in a few days, months, because they're trying to cope with reality.
Yeah, I think that the level of maturity is linked with the level of digitization for sure, but this is happening everywhere. And how the insurance is placed by other partners that are working in my own space. No? So when the competitors are seeing that you are operating in e-commerce and that you can offer an insurance that is adding revenue to you, so this moves really fast in that market. No? And also linked with the different ecosystems. And there are natural ecosystems where the embedded insurance plays really well. No? So mobility is one of them, because it's a kind of insurance or cover that has been from inception distributed in this way. So there's not been any distribution channel that has really focused on that, because there's no way to do it. There's no other way to do it than this one. So there are now ecosystems related to e-commerce, to mobility, to green, to new spaces where the distribution is very linked to embedded insurance. So the evolution of those ecosystems will move also the needle in terms of maturing the distribution in embedded insurance too.
That's interesting. And by the way, regarding the regulation itself, it's quite interesting because we see the European regulator. I remember that last year, while we were discussing the very beginning of embedded insurance, and you were already making it live, they were launching, let's say, a discussion wondering how to make things more, let's say, up to date in the regulation. So it's quite funny, this kind of delay that we can see between the regulator and what's already happening in the market right now. Though I hear that across Europe it's a bit different. And by the way, a question in terms of operations. You mentioned that you are, let's say, live in several countries across Europe. How do you manage to replicate the use case? Is that just a copy-pasting thing? You mentioned a bit the regulation thing, but in terms of product, is that easy to replicate from one country to another one, or how do you deal with it?
I would dream that it would be easy, but I would say there are some principles, and especially one of them in WACOM is that we operate as freedom of service. So we are passporting our license across Europe. Which seems simple, which is not at all. But I think what is even, so beyond just getting the license, is we operate truly as a freedom of service. So what does it mean? It means that we have one central decision point in Paris, which allows us, let's say, with the partners who are going, let's say, pan-European rollouts, for instance, to really operate with one view, which is looking at all the countries, but together with one partner. In my previous life, I think it was very, very difficult in my previous company to do that because you have local P&L, local organization, local bonus system, which preventing really to think globally. So it's really something that we try to do is really to think globally. And then obviously you still need to I would say, customize the last mile from a regulation perspective because doing motor in France is not the same as doing motor in Italy, as an example. But usually also what we try to do is to have a network, for instance, of TPAs, so doing claims or policy admin in each and every country. So we have a network, allowing in fact to be very flexible in the model. So I would say the core of the product, the way we think about it will still remain the same. Decision will be central, and then we'll adapt pricing locally based on behavior, TPAs network based on requests from the partners. So it's really it allows us really to do this rollout very quickly.
That's interesting. And by the way, I guess that you can also scale through a partner, which is, let's say, available across Europe. So working with the team in France, but it could be in Italy, in Spain, in Germany at the same time happening. I think that we will come back to this example, for instance, later on. Jordi, on your side, you are dealing with a few insurance companies. So is there any, let's say, again, best practices or key success factors in working with them? So again, in a platform perspective, what should they consider while working with an insurance company in case WACOM is not available on that market yet? Let's say it this way.
No, we may work with any insurer. So in the end, we are also enabling the insurance to get access to this new distribution market. And I think that this is really fundamental for them because in many cases, and we all know how the industry is working, how the discussions within the corporate are currently happening. We may provide a solution which is something very applicable in the short term. So this is a platform that you may use in a very short term that you can test and learn, that if you have a potential partner or you want to access to a significant distribution market in your local market, this is technology. So our solution in WeCover is cross-border proposition, is agnostic in terms of product, and we may enable any insurer that they want to test, in particular, one specific product for one specific partnership. So this is something that it may work really in a few weeks. What is really crucial too is the level of flexibility that we are demanding them, because in many cases with this product that I have off the shelf, it's not currently fitting with which is the expectation of the partner, But I think that there are companies that are really seeing the value of distribution in embedded insurance that are quite flexible in understanding how can I reshape a bit my product to get access to this market, and then we are adding this distribution layer for them, enabling them to have access to this potential market.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's related as well to a question that we have. You mentioned at the very beginning claim management, so it's from A to Z journey. what's the challenge here? Because and that's quite interesting because this is not the first time, obviously, we discuss embedded insurance, and that's not the first time that there is the claim things which is raised as a question. So how do you usually deal with that? Is that the partner which is managing the claim process? Is that on your hands? Is there a split? So how do you see that tricky part of the relationship with the insurance company? And again, what are the best practices that platform should embrace?
I think for me today, the way we operate is very simple. So as WACOM, we are really focusing on product and pricing design. So we don't do usually policy admin or claims admin. So it's something that we delegate, and we delegate to our partners because most of the times they want to take the control of the full end customer journeys. And if they don't have this capability or they can't do it right now, we have networks of TPAs that can operate. Where we do, let's say, the claims ourselves is especially when with parametric products. So using our blockchain, where everything can be automatically paid. I mentioned flight delays, but we have other products like that, where obviously the product is built from the very beginning, very simple, with a simple trigger, with a simple payment system. This is for me, let's say, the future of insurance, but it's a lot of challenge for everybody.
Yeah, makes sense. And you, Jordi, do you see a few patterns, and how are you dealing with this very specific part of the value chain?
Well, this is really important also to make sure that the customer experience is following the same pattern. No? When they have had a wow experience in the onboarding process, and they are expecting the same kind of experience when they are open a claim or they want to follow the status. No. I think that we are all evolving on that, and we are also working with TPAs that we have fully integrated also in the process of first notification of loss and also the claim status management, so that we can provide these digital capabilities as well to the end customer, that they can access to the same platform where they purchase the insurance, retrieve policy data, retrieve policy documentation, claim, the first notification of loss, and follow the status about how it's evolving in the claims management process. No? So I think that we all need to evolve from that. Insurers and TPAs are really working on the capabilities to enhance and to connect in a much better way. That we have in place one of the agreements, I would say, that is fully embedded in the whole process, from the onboarding, policy admin, customer service, first notification of loss, in claim status as well. And this really provides a wonderful experience for the customer. And in the end, I think that this is the evolution that we will all see.
Yeah, makes sense. And by the way, to be a bit specific, and we have a bit of time, is there any or one very specific example that you'd like to detail? Again, a partnership that you have already built, which, according to you, is a very good example, either because the product in terms of insurance makes a lot of sense, so you've detailed a few of them, but so either because the product is relevant, because the experience is great for the platform. I don't know if you'd like to start with the first example.
No, I would highlight we have a use case with a fintech company that works in the buy now, pay later space, where you can really add as an additional value the possibility to protect your purchase. And this is working really well. So the feedback from customers is that they feel much more protected, and we are having an attachment rate above 25%, which is huge. And because it is really fully integrated in the experience of this company. So this is one of the use cases that we like to highlight. And also recently we got a tender with one of the largest retailers in Spain, which is the platform of PC Componentes. And we are providing the whole set of insurance covers to all the products that they are selling in their platform with an omni-channel approach, not just with the e-commerce platform, also for the stores and also for retargeting actions that they may have in the second process.
Yeah, and if I may, I will just highlight the conversion rate that you mentioned. So 25%, and again, platform in the audience which are doing lead generation, which is let's say a V0 of embedded insurance. You can compare with the conversion rates that you have, but here that's a very good example that technology and user experience can increase dramatically the conversion rate, and then the revenue opportunity for the platform, for the insurance company as well. Franck, on your side, any specific example that you believe is worth sharing with the audience?
But I think that going back maybe to your attention rate, I think this is the biggest challenge. Like you said, we should not disrupt the existing customer journey, so it should be fully embedded. And the attention rate of 25% is I would say, a very good benchmark. I remember when I was working on travel insurance, even trying to optimize the journey, it was more in the range of 5%.
Yeah.
Because maybe on one side, the customer was not aware about the real risk. Traveling in the US, for instance, it costs you a lot if you just hurt yourself. So they're not aware of that. But I think it's really something that we need to work on. I mentioned the ring story, but if I go, let's say, one step further in mobility, let's take the free floating. What I think I like very much is that when the free floating company started, they had to have insurance because it was mandatory. They could not operate without. And they started to really select the minimum coverage just to be compliant with the law. Now what we start to see, the most advanced players, they start to embed additional insurance. I was mentioning personal accidents. And the most advanced are thinking like this, it's already embedded. I will not mention any name, but in Paris, there are 3 major free-floating companies. I'm sure that one of them has PA, so personal accidents. I'm pretty sure the others, they don't. So it's up to you to select the right ones, but it's exactly a very good example of players starting to embed insurance, not just only to get money, but to be different, to have a differentiating factor on the market and being ahead of the wave, that now they want to protect end consumer, not just to make money.
Yeah, so that's improving the relationship with the customer, and again, it's a revenue opportunity, but that's also a user experience, and here even a competitive edge. That's what I hear, and I believe it's quite interesting. Maybe before wrapping up things, maybe last question around the next opportunity that you believe in that space. Again, it could be a geography, it could be a kind of platform, it could be a product. I would refer to the discussion that we regularly have around, for instance, health insurance. A lot of people in that space consider that embedded insurance is not applicable to health. So that would be my pick in terms of next step. I believe that in health insurance, life more generally would be the next big thing in embedded insurance. What would you be your next?
In our case, of course, the geographical expansion is one of our priorities, and we want to be present here in France and in other countries in Europe. And this is part of the exploration process that we are doing, and also seeing which is the appetite, sharing the use cases that we are facing now in Spain that can be fully replicable in other markets. And also, we are approaching the insurers in terms of making them understand that there's an opportunity in embedded insurance in distribution. It has a huge potential, and the way to approach it, the agile way to approach it in terms of distribution with technology is not building from scratch, a layer that I can have to put on my legacy, that you can reuse technology that is already up and running and working for B2B, specifically for B2B2C, for retail, for platforms that they can use as a white label solution. And this is the kind of approach that we are following with them too.
On our side, you mentioned health. So WACOM so far was very focused on P&C products, and we clearly see health, life, and even loan protection as a very good opportunity. And by the way, by the end of the year, we'll also be able to operate on those licenses. So health, clearly we see it as a big opportunity. We're mentioning embedding insurance or parametric solution. We are working already on, we have already a solution, parametric insurance. For health, which I will not disclose. I will use it as more a teaser because it's really something which is very simple for the customer with value add, and we are sure that it will just be the beginning of the long journey.
Makes sense. I definitely agree. And then it seems that it's a perfect teaser for a V2 of that discussion to learn more about that opportunity. So thanks a lot for all the people in the audience. Thanks a lot to you, Jordi, for the insight. Thanks a lot, Franck, for the insight as well. And obviously, happy to reconnect. You can reconnect directly with Jordi and Franck. Again, if you'd like to generate additional revenues, if you want to have a competitive edge, or if you'd like, or if you want to improve your user experience, embedded insurance seems to be the one of the answer. So thanks again, thanks to the audience, and see you soon.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Bye.